Pursuant to the Constitution and the rules of the joint session, the motion to further extend the proclamation of martial law and the suspension of the privilege of the writ of habeas corpus hereby approved by the Congress of the Republic of the Philippines.
Congress approves third martial law extension in Mindanao until December 31 of 2019. The COMELEC believes the martial law extension will be favorable to conduct a BANGSAMORO organic law plebiscite in the 2019 elections in Mindanao. And the economic managers to recommend to President Duterte to call for a special Congress session amid the 2019 proposed budget dilemma. Good evening. Martial law in Mindanao remains for another year as the Congress approved its extension until December 31 of 2019. Grace Casin tells us why.
Pursuant to the Constitution and the rules of the joint session, the motion to further extend the proclamation of martial law and the suspension of the privilege of the writ of habeas corpus hereby approved by the Congress of the Republic of the Philippines.
Both houses of Congress approved another year of extension of martial law and the suspension of habeas corpus in Mindanao from January 1, 2019 until December 31, 2019. This is the third martial law extension since President Rodrigo Duterte declared it in May 2017. During the session, Executive Secretary Salvador Medialdea said rebellion still persists in the region despite significant progress that the government achieved in putting the rebellion under control. Medialdea notes that Abu Sayyaf Group, BANGSAMORO Islamic Freedom Fighter, Daula Islamia, and other terrorist groups continue to defy the government by staging hostile activities. These include bombing incidents in Lamitan City, Basilan, Insulan, Sultan Kudarat, and Barangay Apopong in General Santos City that killed several individuals. Terrorist groups also continue to conduct kidnap for ransom activities in Sulu. Medialdea believes further imposition of martial law in the region will enable the military, police, and other law enforcement agencies to fully put an end to the ongoing rebellion in Mindanao.
We cannot turn a blind eye to the reality that Mindanao is still in the midst of rebellion.
Some lawmakers have tried to block the proposal by questioning the basis of the government to extend the martial law. They believe there is no actual rebellion happening in Mindanao, and some also disagreed with the extent of time.
Gusto ninyong unlimited ang paglagay sa rehiyon ng Mindanao sa martial law.
Legal ba at maaari ba talaga tayong magbotohan para magbigay ng extension para sa 1 taon, samantalang ang mga termino natin ay matatapos makalipas ang 6 na buwan?
We need more time to catch these people, to neutralize them, to reduce their capability to create trouble.
Despite the opposition of some lawmakers, 235 still voted in favor of the extension, 28 objected, and 1 abstention. Malacañang meanwhile thanks Congress for approving the recommendation to extend martial law in Mindanao for a year. Presidential spokesperson Salvador Panelo said in a statement that with this development, the government expects to achieve progress in addressing rebellion in Mindanao and promote security and peace in the region. Panelo also assures that the fundamental rights of the people in Mindanao will continue to be respected. Grace Casin, UNTV News and Rescue, House of Representatives.
Some groups and lawmakers remains unconvinced with the explanation given by the government officials in extending the martial law in Mindanao for the third time. However, the Senate minority bloc has no plans in questioning the measure before the Supreme Court. Aiko Miguel tells us why.
Opposition lawmakers, both in Senate and the lower house, believe there is no reason for the imposition of martial law in Mindanao to be extended. This is after the majority of lawmakers voted in favor of the request of President Rodrigo Duterte to extend the martial law in the region for another year due to the continuous threat of terrorist groups. Among those who have disagreed with the proposal are Albay Representative Edsel Lagman, the members of the Makabayan Bloc, and the Senate Minority Group. Oppositors believe it is high time for the government to lift the military rule and focus on the development of the region. Commission on Human Rights Chairperson Jose Gascon also reiterates his disagreement with the implementation of martial law due to alleged human rights violations.
Sa aming pananaw, batay sa aming nakikita, ay walang batayan sa usapin ng invasion o rebellion. Pero ang aming tukoy bilang institusyon, siyempre, ay yung human rights issues.
But Senator Panfilo Lacson, who voted for the extension, says that as a former chief of the Philippine National Police, he understands the government's predicament and its goal to decimate terrorist networks in Mindanao.
Naintindihan ko naman yung predicament, yung sitwasyon nila. And wala naman legal impediment kasi sa Supreme Court ruling, maliwanag na sinasabi, ang requirement lang doon, yung the president has to convince himself that there's probable cause.
Despite their opposition, Senate Minority Leader Franklin Drilon has no plans of questioning the issue before the Supreme Court.
No, we don't intend to question it. My position is that there is no factual basis.
Aiko Miguel, UNTV News and Rescue, Philippines.
The Commission on Elections believes that the extension of martial law in Mindanao will be favorable to the conduct of plebiscite for the passage of the BANGSAMORO Organic Law and the midterm elections in 2019. Ray Pelayo explains why.
On January 21 next year, the Commission on Elections will hold the plebiscite in the autonomous region in Muslim Mindanao, in Isabela City in Basilan, and in Cotabato City. The plebiscite will determine if residents are in favor for the passage of the BANGSAMORO Organic Law that will govern the proposed BANGSAMORO region. COMELEC spokesperson Director James Jimenez says a second plebiscite will be held in February in 19 barangays who wish to be included in the new BANGSAMORO region.
Yung unang plebisito, ang didesisyonan niya kung mararatify ba yung BOL o hindi. Yung susunod na eleksyon, yung susunod na plebisito, para doon sa mga lugar na gustong sumali, kung matutuloy yung pagsali nila sa BANGSAMORO.
Jimenez says the poll body has already printed 2.8 million ballots, which they have started distributing in areas where the plebiscite will be held. Former Commissioner Samira Agutok of the BANGSAMORO Transition Commission hopes that the plebiscite will be a success. She expressed concern of the possible consequences should the BOL fails, citing the impending petition against its passage in the Supreme Court.
Na baka the Supreme Court would look at the petition against the BOL favorably at baka hindi maiakyat ang batas BOL sa implementasyon. So pagka walang BOL at walang boto ng yes ngayong January ay baka balik tayo sa ARM at magkakagulo ang Mindanao ulit.
On the other hand, the former commissioner believes that the recent approval to extend the martial law in Mindanao may not be favorable to the conduct of the plebiscite and the midterm elections in 2019.
Martial law will not help a free and shared democratic debate over BOL.
Some opposition personalities who are running in next year's election agreed with Gutok on the matter.
Sa buong panahon na nasa ilalim ng martial law ang Mindanao, hindi umangat ang kabuhayan ng mga kababayan natin doon.
Kinakatakot natin dito, bumababa yung batayan sa pagdedeklara ng martial law. Kaya pwedeng na ikasa na yung lahat ng elemento para magdeklara ng isang nationwide martial law.
Pag sinabi natin martial law, that is an emergency power. May emergency pa ba sa Mindanao?
Despite the oppositions, the COMELEC and the Palace believe that the extension of martial rule in Mindanao will benefit both the conduct of the plebiscite and the 2019 midterm elections.
From the point of view of election administration, nakabuti pa actually ang martial law kay Daniel. No? Yung presensya ng militar, it pacifies the area and it minimizes yung mga attack ng mga dissident forces.
I do not see any relation. Well, what's the relation? In fact, martial law is even acceptable to the people of Mindanao precisely because the security is kept. If there will be a plebiscite, then people who would want to do something to derail the plebiscite will think twice because there is martial law. It's even helpful.
Ray Pelayo, UNTV, News and Rescue, Quezon City.
Some members of the consultative committee tasked by President Rodrigo Duterte to review the 1987 Constitution hit the move of the lower house to approve the draft federal charter, principally authored by House Speaker Gloria Macapagal Arroyo. Former CONCOM spokesperson Ding Generoso in a statement condemned the approval of the Arroyo draft, saying the lower house should have strengthened the version that was submitted by the panel headed by former Supreme Court Chief Justice Rheena. Generoso believes the CONCOM's version institutes real political reform and meaningful changes in the Philippine Charter. Dean Ranhilio Aquino of San Beda College of Law also questioned the House's move to set aside the CONCOM's draft that went through a 5-month deliberation. On Tuesday, the lower house approved on final reading the resolution of both Houses 15 that seeks to shift to a federal form of government. The proposal also seeks to remove the term limits for members of the Congress and the Constitution's anti-political dynasty provision. The bill also wants to elect the president and a vice president from the same party, each serving a term of 4 years and will be eligible for one re-election. The bill also seeks to bring back the two-party system and to require elected officials to have a college degree. Meanwhile, economic managers are set to recommend to President Duterte to call for a special Congress session to pass the 2019 proposed national budget before the end of the year. Here's why from Rosalie Coles.
If Congress fails to pass the proposed 2019 national budget this year, the government will have to work on a reenacted budget. According to Budget Secretary Benjamin Diokno, a reenacted budget will hugely affect the country's economy. This means that all new projects set for 2019 will have no funding to begin with, and all government services will surely be affected. For these reasons, Diokno says the government's economic managers are determined to recommend to President Rodrigo Duterte to call for a special joint session in Congress to give time for the passage of the 3.7 trillion pesos proposed national budget for next year.
No, we'll recommend to the President that he calls for a special session.
Among the expected results of a reenacted budget would be a drop in the government disbursements by 220 billion pesos in 2019, which would impact government services and the country's gross domestic product. A reenacted budget would also cost the jobs of around 600,000 workers, and around 200,000 to 400,000 citizens would not be able to recover from poverty because of contraction of government fund. Presidential spokesperson Salvador Panelo believes that with the consequences mentioned, the president might concede to the recommendation and submit a request for a special joint session to Congress.
That is the recommendation of the economic managers. If it will affect the government's expenses and services, then the president will be persuaded to grant the recommendation of the economic managers.
For his part, the Budget Secretary insists that there's no one to blame for the delay in the passage of the proposed budget but Congress.
As you know, the Constitution says the President has 30 days after the SONA to submit the budget. We have consistently submitted on the day of the SONA. We don't use the 30-day period. So it's Congress who should be blamed for this.
Meanwhile, House Speaker Gloria Arroyo expressed confidence that the proposed 2019 national budget will be approved. However, it will be delayed.
I don't think the budget will ever be disapproved. I think it will just be a little delayed, if ever.
Rosalie Coz, UNTV News and Rescue.
Budget Secretary Benjamin Diokno still enjoys the trust and confidence of President Duterte, according to Malacañang. This is despite the questions of some lawmakers on the 2019 proposed national budget. Rosalie Coz is back to tell us why.
Malacañang insists that President Rodrigo Duterte still trusts Budget Secretary Benjamin Diokno until no basis and evidence are submitted to prove the allegations against the official. Presidential spokesperson Salvador Panelo made the statement in defense of the budget secretary. This include a questionable 51 billion pesos additional allocation to the Department of Public Works and Highways, as well as the alleged conflict of interest in billions of pesos worth of infrastructure projects in Casiguran and Sorsogon.
Mr. Diokno is known to be the Mr. No, meaning he's a man of integrity. So when he says he's not involved, I believe him, unless you show me as a lawyer competent evidence.
The presidential spokesperson also says those who throw the allegations have the burden to prove those. However, in relation to the allegations of House Majority Leader Rolando Andaya Jr. that there's only one contractor for billions of pesos worth of infrastructure projects, Malacañang vows to investigate the matter. Andaya alleged that some cabinet members are benefactors of the said contractor.
Since there is allegation of corruption, it follows that we have to investigate.
Rosa Licoz, UNTV News and Rescue.
Composer Wish coverer Junji Marcelo admits he had a hard time choosing who to eliminate in last night's elimination round of Wishcovery Season 2, The Singer and the Song. Leslie Lungboan tells us why.
The second batch of Wishcoveries from National Capital Region displayed their vocal prowess in Wishcovery Season 2 The Singer and the Song elimination round last night. Each one tried to prove to composer Wishcoverer Junji Marcelo that he or she deserves a spot in the next round. Alia Cadelinia belted, "Kunin mo na ang lahat sa akin."
Wag lang ang aking mahal, ikamamatay ng puso ko.
You have something that a lot of people don't have. You have that spark in you na continuous. Marami kasi spark lang. So therefore, it's not a spark, it's a continuous fire.
Meanwhile, Junji compared Mark Vincent Adele to Canadian singer Michael Bublé.
Heto na tayo magkayakap sa dilim. Okay, sarap ng mga nakaw na sandali.
Yung shifting from the low to the head tone, hindi talaga madaling gawin yun. Pero buti na lang yung tone mo works dun sa genre na pinili mo. And I'm glad you did that.
Wishcovery Micaela Puzon also showcased her emotionally charged vocal ability.
Kung ang lahat ay may katapusan, itong paglalakbay ay
It takes a special kind of song para maramdaman. And you chose the right song. Paglisan is one fantastic song.
However, Micaela was not able to make it to the next round.
Isang araw na puno ng kaba pero sobrang punong-puno ng blessing yung binigay ng Wishcovery. Thank you po.
After Camps Rani and Junji, the second batch of Wishcoveries from Camp Top Suzara will battle against each other next in Wishcovery Season 2, The Singer and the Song. Leslie Longboan, UNTV News and Rescue, Philippines.
Up next on One News. Supreme Court issues temporary restraining order against the operations of ride-hailing service Angkas. Second, a set of Dalian trains hit the MRT-3 tracks. And the National Bureau of Investigation warns the public of a fake deposit slip scam targeting online sellers. Thank you for keeping me company in the first part of One News. More reasons behind the stories with Angelo Castro III and William Thio after this quick break. I'm Rheena, Villamor-Camara. Good evening.
Welcome back to One News. We pick up from where Rheena Villamor-Camara left off. I'm Angelo Castro III. Here are the headlines. Supreme Court issues temporary restraining order against operations of ride-hailing service Angkas.
We see that in the past they have not been sincere with any suspension of military operations.
The Armed Forces of the Philippines is not reciprocating Communist Party of the Philippines' 5-day ceasefire declaration this holiday season.
It's a group of journalists who, simply by doing their jobs, are standing up for some of the most essential values on which we all depend: facts, the pursuit of truth, and the fight against misinformation.
And Time magazine names groups of journalists, including Rappler Chief Maria Ressa and Slaying Jamal Khashoggi, as Person of the Year. The Land Transportation Franchising and Regulatory Board will once again stop the operation of motorcycle ride-hailing service ANCAS. The agency has issued a resolution that will empower traffic law enforcers to apprehend ANCAS drivers who will continue operations on roads. Joan Nano tells us why.
The Supreme Court has issued a temporary restraining order against the operation of motorcycle ride-hailing service ANCAS. Based on the High Court's decision, it emphasized that the power and mandate of the Department of Transportation and Land Transportation Franchising and Regulatory Board should not be disregarded in terms of regulating all public utility vehicles operating in the country. Because of this, the LTFRB has conducted a special board meeting this afternoon to discuss the High Court's decision and thresh out the measures for its implementation. With this, some ANCAS passengers are now worrying as they will once again experience the struggles in commuting. One of them is Maki Libradilla, an event organizer who used to ride ANCAS. Maki says it is very convenient to ride in ANCAS for him not to be late in his meetings and events.
For example, ang venue ng event ko malayo, tapos dadaan ako sa napaka-traffic na lugar. Parang kawawa naman kami kung malilate naman kami. Kami naman yung masisira dun sa mga taong nakausap na namin, nakakontrata namin. Kasi may oras kami talagang kailangang masunod.
Some ANCAS drivers are also disappointed with the new order as they worry over losing their source of income. One of them is Jumi Calago, who earns 1,200 pesos daily from 11 hours of servicing passengers.
Nung namamasukan pa ako, bali ako doon, bali dito, araw-araw, pag lumabas ako, magkakapera ako. May pantustos na ako sa pamilya ko. Kung pag pinatigil nila, hanap na kami na ibang paraan kung paano kami ulit sa kasi mahirap yun Parang tinatanggalan na naman kami ng trabaho niyan.
It was in September this year when the Mandaluyong Regional Trial Court Branch 213 granted a preliminary injunction to ANCAS, preventing the government from blocking its operation. In a joint statement released by the DOTR and LTFRB, they welcome the decision of the highest court and insist that they are only after the welfare and safety of the passengers. The agency stood firm that motorcycles should not be used as a public utility vehicle as it is very dangerous to commuters. At past 6 in the evening, the LTFRB issued a resolution ordering traffic law enforcers to apprehend ANCAS drivers who will continue to ply on the roads. Joan Nano, UNTV News and Rescue, Quezon City.
The manager of MRT3 begins the deployment of the second set of Dalian trains as part of its reliability, availability, maintainability, and safety test. The second set of Dalian trains, composed of 3 coaches, hit the tracks on Tuesday. These are set to run during off-peak hours from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. starting December 11 to 15. However, from December 16 to 23, the trains are set to operate from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. Transportation Undersecretary for Railways Timothy Batan explains that a total of 150 hours test run is needed to be completed to determine whether they are safe for commuters' use under normal operation of the MRT. The people of Balangiga in Eastern Samar are preparing for the celebratory welcome for the much-awaited return of the 3 bells seized by American troops 117 years ago. Bernard Dadis tells us why.
Villagers in Balanghiga town in Eastern Samar are thrilled over the imminent return of their church bells that were transported back to the Philippines from the U.S. on Tuesday. The historic bells are currently displayed for a 2-day public viewing at the Philippine Air Force Museum in Pasay City and are set to be delivered to Balanghiga on Saturday, December 15. Balanghiga resident Jocelyn Dacuno, whose great-grandfather fought against the American soldiers in 1901, says the return of the three bells will honor the valiant efforts of their forebearers.
Namon mga lolo, ginbuhis diwat itniran-irang mga buhay hiton dida nga. Kaya nagpapasalamat kami nga mahibabalik na nga nihaamon iton nga kampana.
The Balanghiga encounter happened on the morning of September 28, 1901, when town residents, led by Valeriano Abanador, initiated an attack and killed several U.S. soldiers. But the American troops retaliated and killed 2,000 locals and took the bells as war trophy. Ador Abanador de Sina, a great-grandchild of Captain Abanador, expressed gratitude for the return of the bells to its rightful honor.
Kay agi kan Duterte na himuan niya yan paagi nga hiuli. Nagpapasalamat kami hen amon presidente. Iyagod yan malahimo nga mahingan ibalik na among bells.
The bells are expected to be handed over the Balanghiga Church in the ceremony on Saturday at 3 p.m. The bells' return is seen to boost the Balanghiga's tourism industry, as this will attract more visitors who are eager to see the historic bells.
Kamay adahin round the clock nga pagbantay iton bells, so anytime pwede makaganhi iton mga kurayog magkita or kumulaw, kumita, kumapot ini nga mga bells.
Coordinated diha kung ito na PNP and military. Ito na instructions coming from National Office. Talaga paggagawat siya dito, naigpit itong seguridad.
Bernard Dadis, UNTV News and Rescue, Philippines.
Rappler News site Chief Executive Officer Maria Ressa, slain Saudi journalist Jamal Khashoggi, and other journalists have been named as Time Magazine's Person of the Year. Let's find out why from this report.
Time magazine on Tuesday named a group of journalists as its Person of the Year in a cover story headlined The Guardians and the War on Truth.
It's a group of journalists who, simply by doing their jobs, are standing up for some of the most essential values on which we all depend: facts, the pursuit of truth, and the fight against misinformation.
The honor went to a series of journalists, including Reuters journalists Well-Known 32 and Keo Seo-u 28, who the government of Myanmar convicted on September 3 under the Colonial Era Official Secrets Act in a case seen as a test of democratic freedoms in Myanmar. The staff of the Capital Gazette newspaper in Annapolis, Maryland, where a gunman shot and killed 5 people in June. Also honored was Saudi journalist Jamal Khashoggi, a critic of Saudi Arabia's de facto ruler, Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman. Khashoggi was killed 2 months ago at the Saudi consulate in Istanbul when he went there to collect documents for his forthcoming marriage. The 95-year-old magazine also honored Rappler founder Maria Ressa, who has been sued for tax evasion. Her website has been critical of the government of Philippine President Rodrigo Duterte, and she claims the charges are politically motivated. The 4 groups were highlighted on 4 separate covers of the magazine. Time said it chose to honor journalism at a time when the practice of critical democracy is under threat both from governments and technological advances. Its annual distinction is intended to recognize the person, group, thing, or idea that had the greatest influence on world events that year. Malacañang, meanwhile, respects the decision of Time magazine to hail Ressa as one of its Person of the Year.
The call of the awarding organization, it has its basis of awarding certain people. Certainly, we cannot intrude into that. It's not our turf. No, whether we agree or not, it doesn't matter. That's the award of a particular organization.
Robbie De Guzman, UNTV News and Rescue.
The Armed Forces of the Philippines won't suspend their offensive operations despite the 5-day ceasefire declaration of the Communist Party of the Philippines this holiday season. Leia Ilagan tells us why.
The military is not inclined to recommend to President Rodrigo Duterte to suspend the military offensive operations against the communist rebels this holiday season. This is despite the move of the Communist Party of the Philippines New People's Army to declare a 5-day unilateral ceasefire against government forces in observance of the holiday season and its 50th founding anniversary. The CPP-NPA ceasefire is slated to begin from 12:01 in the morning of December 24 until 11:59 in the evening of December 26 and from 12:01 in the morning of December 31st until 11:59 in the evening of January 1st, 2019. According to AFP spokesperson Brigadier General Edgar Arevalo, the government side will not reciprocate the rebels' gesture. This is the first time that the AFP is not even contemplating a cessation of hostilities with the CPP-NPA for the holiday season.
We see that in the past they have not been sincere with any suspension of military operations. They continue with their terroristic and criminal activities, extortion, harassments.
Arevalo adds they will not allow the rebels to chance to regroup and even celebrate their founding anniversary.
Experience showed us na it's not worth it. And ikalawa, yung sinasabi natin, magse-celebrate sila ng 50th anniversary this year. So we do not want to give them that leeway.
The Department of National Defense and the Interior and Local Government also rejected the ceasefire. The AFP has directed its troops to stay on alert for any attacks that may possibly be staged by the communist rebels.
Heightened pa rin ang ating preparation ng ating armed forces the way we do, especially alam natin na meron silang ganitong activities.
President Rodrigo Duterte has yet to approve the AFP's recommendation not to implement a suspension of military operations with the CPP-NPA this December. Leia Ilagan, UNTV, News and Rescue, Camp Aguinaldo.
The Department of Health once again reminds the public that shopping this holiday season could also compromise our health. Aiko Miguel will tell us why.
This month, sale is everywhere. People are fond of shopping, which is why malls and stores are so crowded. But with this condition, there are greater chances of spreading common cold diseases this holiday season in congested area. This prompted the Department of Health to issue important tips to avoid getting sick and transmit diseases to people whom we interact with every day. Tip number 1. Leave shoes and slippers used in strolling and shopping outside the house. Tip number 2. Wash up and change clothes before going to bed. Tip number 3. Make sure to wash hands after handling money for paying bills and buying goods. Tip number 4. Don't forget to bring alcohol or sanitizer wherever you go. This is an essential thing to bring when there is no water and soap to wash your hands. It is also important to think of the welfare of others. Tip number 5. Make sure to give gifts which are affordable but safe, and the recipient will not spend money for getting contaminated with the gift that you gave. Bear in mind that there are some toys and gift items that contain lead, a poisonous chemical. Some of the indications are the strong smell and the bright color of the toys or gift items, slippers, and mugs that may be affordable but could be harmful to one's health. Tip number 6. One must also take supplements such as vitamin C and B complex to help build stronger resistance against diseases. The DOH said it is always better to end the year with a healthy body. Tip number 7. Wear mask anywhere, especially when sick. The DOH said one should get used to wearing mask to avoid getting infected with or transmit diseases to our loved ones.
Sanayan lang siguro na kasi talaga may mga use ang mask. Halimbawa may sakit ka or may sakit ang kasama nyo sa trabaho o sa bahay, talaga nagbabawasan ang transmission ng illness.
Let us always be reminded that prevention is better than cure and health is wealth, so let us follow these iwas sakit tips. Aiko Miguel, UNTV, News and Rescue, Quezon City.
Up next on Y News. Huawei executive Meng Wanzhou freed after a Canadian court granted her request for bail. Over 160 countries adopt UN-backed global compact for migration.
my creativity and my authenticity, they go hand in hand. I really am passionate about what I do, whether it be in my advocacy work or just in representing my country. I try and go above what's expected of me.
And Catriona Gray shares her edge among the candidates of the 2018 Miss Universe. Y News will be right back after this quick break.